Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's session. Really excited to have you in our third week of the Teach with Chrome series. We are joined today with Mr. Alan Smith, the STEM engineering teacher at Chester STEM Academy within the Chester Upland School District. He will be talking about how he uses Chromebooks to get his students going and mimicking real engineering work situations. So excited to have you, Alan.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for inviting us to share. So my name is Alan Smith. I am the STEM engineering teacher at the Chester STEM Academy. And what we've done is working within an urban school district that has experienced financial challenges, related to the governance and things that you might typically see in urban communities. When we come to STEM engineering and teaching STEM engineering, there is a resource gap that prevents us from providing students real day or consistent real day opportunities. Now, there's workarounds, YouTube, and these kinds of things, but there's nothing better than filling in the gaps, if you will, to connect youth with a real day application of learning, specifically in this case, CAD. And so we've developed the program around what we've had. We've tried to use Chromebooks almost from the beginning, especially during the COVID crisis and ultimate Zoom related to web apps. And so the first part of my presentation will represent the earliest implementations of using engineering apps, and then we'll move into the second level, which is really the beginning of this year and just how far we've been able to come in implementing the use of those. And so, we are working on really confidently thinking that we won't be needing Microsoft Surface tablets for engineering if we're able to continue the success that we've had. And so when we first started working with the engineering apps, we really took a web approach because we knew that the web engineering applications would work on just about any device. And so, thinking that the Chromebook is not necessarily engineering built, I was assumptive, I would say, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But we were able to use successfully AutoCAD Web and Tinkercad for 3D, and also homestyler.com. All of these are free CAD programs that any engineering education system can use free, and almost any device can access those apps. And so we were using those to teach a lot of good concepts from orthographic projection in your 2D, and then also your basic 3D modeling and prepping students to be able to create solutions for 3D printers. Homestyler.com gives us a very nice ability to create basic house models and teach them layout planning and even some exterior. While it's not the building information model, when you export the plans in 2D, it does give you a pretty complimentary set of what could be the basis of a set of detailed drawings for architecture. So the Chromebooks had no problems accessing those apps. However, based upon maybe sometimes the time of the day or internet connection, we frequently experienced lag in those particular applications. And so there would be some kind of latency, especially with AutoCAD Web, not so much with Tinkercad or Homestyler. But still, when we're teaching the terms, our students would get used to that particular latency. And overall, I would say those apps are very good for beginning engineering application. But if you're interested in really pursuing all of the standards of your various education, it's very important to try to maximize the experience for the students. And so you'll see here that the internet-dependent CAD apps were very good in helping us to accomplish a lot of the Pennsylvania Department of Education standards for career and technical education. But to take those programs to another level and have students kind of experience the vocational level or the real day application, it would require us to go a little bit further. So, these programs were adequate for high school introduction to engineering CAD. The touchscreen Chromebooks, for an example, plus a mouse, removed the need to turn to Microsoft tablets. And that is very promising, using those versions of the Chromebook. And so when the end of last year, our building principal came across a cloud-based computing system that would give us the ability to kind of jump over the need to update our computer labs. I did have a aging lab in my room that was not able to run even the basic full-blown version of AutoCAD very smoothly. And so this cloud, Itopia, allowed us to install the full-blown version of AutoCAD 2022. It gave us the ability to install Revit. And many of you who are teaching engineering, probably most of us are using SketchUp, that kind of thing. Well, we were able to install Revit, and then also Inventor Professional. And that's as of, I would say, like the beginning of the second marking period last fall. We are up and running with today with AutoCAD 2022, Inventor Professional 2022, and Revit. And the most exciting thing is that by adding the CAD computing access to the Chromebooks, we're now able to teach real day CAD concepts using the touch screen Chromebooks with the mouse. And what was really exciting is that there was no appreciable latency related to AutoCAD 2022. And we threw at it, creating some pretty complex 3D models. And it was really, really a pleasure to see the cloud version work on a Chromebook, touchscreen Chromebook, versus the latency most of the time that we had experienced with using AutoCAD Web. And so now our students are able to learn Autodesk Revit, the professional AEC, architectural and engineering constructing industry standard for BIM or building information model, and versus programs that might be stuck with using SketchUp or BricsCAD or these kinds of things. And so we're able to teach pro level concepts using Chromebook and Itopia. Thank you very much. So this ends my presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we can ask if there are any questions from the audience. It looks like Sheila is asking, we are not allowed to use Tinkercad due to privacy policy. Can you suggest an alternative?
Mm. I have not run into um, restrictions in that regard in our district. Um, that is a tough question. I would like to know maybe the details of what those restrictions are, or is it district level policy, or that which is related to state regulations or those kinds of things.
Maybe while we wait for more information, Mark Jones was asking whether you run Itopia on one-to-one student devices or only on school-owned devices.
That's a great question. One of the the key things that happened, there were some things that did fall in place, and that is that the STEM Academy became one-to-one Chromebooks to students about 3 years ago now, and that is pretty critical. Critical, but if you're an engineering program that is able to provide a Chromebook for each engineering student, that should suffice. And even if they had to share Chromebooks, they're able to use their Google login to preserve those drawings. Because one of the things that you have to do with the Itopia Cloud is each student has to be logged into their Google account inside of that Itopia Cloud. And then within that cloud session, they have to save their work back into their Google account. So I kind of like that because it doesn't allow a student to have a drawing stuck on a particular device. The device gets damaged, the drawings are gone. You teach them from the very beginning to automatically back up their work. So, but one-to-one is very important.
And it looks like from Jay whether you explored Cameo as well before you found Itopia.
We haven't. Itopia was kind of brought to us, and they sold us. We have looked at it, but they did sell us on Itopia.
And then it looks like, Benjamin Hurley is asking whether you can explain a little bit more about Itopia. I know Itopia is a virtual desktop integration tool, but maybe Alan, a little bit about what you use them for specifically.
Sure. The way we have implemented Itopia at the Chester STEM Academy is that there are 3 programs that basically, because we are doing some license sharing, primarily there's the photography program and the graphics program that use the Adobe products. And so the shared cloud thing came in so that the 2 programs could use the same licensing. And because I'm in the same wing, and I caught wind of it, I said, "Hey, I'd sure like to try putting my CAD apps on it," not expecting that AutoCAD would work as smooth as it did. But Itopia became a very nice option because depending upon, we get an idea of how many students will be accessing Itopia at what kind of rate. They're able to create different server segments that are just for your particular class, and it gives you the ability, the teacher, to go in and create your particular cloud computer, unique cloud computer, very very flexible. So for an example, I have a cloud computer for my upper level engineering 2 and 3 students, and a cloud server for my engineering 1 students.
Awesome. And then there was a question from John about expanding into 3D printing the models. How did you get that started? We were
Sure.
just talking about this.
And that is very important, especially in almost any engineering program. And it was very important that Chromebook was able to handle these kinds of things, because it really was the bridge for these inner city students to be able to experience from a design to 3D print model. As you know, a lot of districts are getting away from having full-blown machine shops, wood shops, very expensive anymore. And then even here, we have two 3D printers, a MakerBot Replicator Z18 and an Ender. And so this implementation made the world. Now students are able to design from the beginning. Of course, they have to do, my upperclassmen have to do a design project, follow the design process, produce engineering drawings, and then they're able to prototype. So they're able to, the pieces that we're able to kind of emulate a basic engineering firm. And that's very pleasing that we're able to do that. And again, we just arrived at this level from about the second market period up until now. But, right now they're doing Frisbees. I had them do a senior prank. So here a kid just printed out a frog, but they had to design them. One kid, his prank was big letters, Mr. Smith stinks. Okay, I said, fine. Fine, go ahead, prank on me. So, but again, it's they're able to do it from start to finish.
And we have a question around licensing issues. For example, our AutoCAD licenses require the computer running AutoCAD to be behind our network. In this case, it would be coming from the virtual machine.
That is correct. You have to follow. There's two things you have to do separately. These are two different worlds that weren't expected to come together. So you got to satisfy the requirements in each world first. And the first thing is that you have to, in the very beginning, get all of your students the student licensing agreements with Autodesk. You've got to do that first and separately. The second thing is that you have to have the app installed on the cloud and up and running. Now, it's my understanding that the Itopia back office technical people had to talk to Autodesk to get some things to work. But once they did, then the AutoCAD apps always present themselves as the first install, because when the cloud computer shuts down, all of those files that say, "Hey, I'm the anchor license on this computer," they go away. So when the app fires up, it's imperative that the student has an active online AutoCAD account. It works easier if the student installs their licensing on a physical computer first, and then Itopia. But we have seen it. We have been able to work around it, whereby that when the 30-day free window for the Autodesk software expires, that they can go in and log directly into the web version of their license and put that in, and that it comes back around and allows the student to work that session without being within license violation. So right now, all of my students in my upper class, the juniors and seniors, are able to use Revit and AutoCAD 2022. We're just now getting into Inventor.
Awesome. So Jonathan had a question, broad one, Jonathan. Any information on the design process? Jonathan, were there any specificities within that? Or maybe Alan, you can just talk about the design process that your students follow.
Well, I basically just use one that's from a textbook. It's a 12-step process. What I do first is I teach the students how to use the 3D printer. Tinkercad, create a model, go right and print something. And then so that it's not so technical at first. And then the first design process I gave them was to use the simple machines, create a simple machine. Most of them chose a wedge to be a doorstop. you'd be surprised in an urban district how many teachers would love to have a doorstop. So we became pretty popular there. But to make it a learning experience, we made sure that fun first. They created what they thought would work, and then when they found out that it didn't work, I said, well, why didn't it stop the door? It's then when I introduced the design process. I didn't do that first. I wanted them to have the fun first. But then now, if you go through these steps, and you can find that through a lot of different textbooks, engineering textbooks. And then at the end of the day, our upperclassmen had to present a final report, the orthographic drawing of their doorstop, and the requisite things that an engineering firm. So again, you might want to just mix up the steps to keep it fun and interesting, and then go back and make sure that they understand those steps.
Awesome. Thank you. And I think this will be our last question from Enrique. How much latency have you seen in implementation, and if the lag disrupts command choice?
Well, I'm so sorry you're asking the wrong guy, because when you're in an urban center, we had these old Windows 7 laptops when I first started here about 3 years ago, and we installed AutoCAD 2019. The video drivers would pixelate, and I made sure the students learned it anyway. And so latency is something that we had become accustomed to. And so when we moved to Chromebooks and AutoCAD Web, hey, we didn't have any video pixelation. I mean, that was much better. But I tell you, with the cloud, now I don't know about the other cloud servers, but with Itopia, once you were in AutoCAD, and it takes a minute now, there's a limitation in terms of, working on a computer that has the Autodesk apps on it. That's still going to be a little bit better. But if you're limited and you have to use Chromebooks, you just basically train the students to start Itopia, start your cloud as soon as you come in. That's actually at the top of my board here. Every day students come in, they start their Itopia cloud. Once it's up and they're logged into their license, there is no latency that we've seen so far in AutoCAD 2022 Professional. I mean, that's very encouraging. Can't hear you. Sorry.
I'm on mute. Thank you so much for your time. And there's a lot of thank yous in the comments, and appreciate everyone joining today. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.